It's 1979. I'm 14 years old.
Okay.
And my older brother invites me to go to the movies with a friend of his. And I'm thinking, I get to hang out with the upperclassmen. Yeah, I don't know. I'm like, I don't remember what part of the year it came out. And I'm either 8th grade or a freshman in high school. And this is, for me at that time, this is really big because I heard all the stories about them going out.
Okay.
So I said, where are we going? We're going to see this movie called Alien.
Okay.
All right. So we get to the theater, and it's my brother Mike and his friend Frank and me. And we get to the theater late. The movie has just started.
Okay.
I don't know. So we buy our tickets. We get into the concession line. We get our concessions. We walk into the theater. And when you walked into this particular theater, there's a solid wall on the left, and on the right, there's a half wall.
Okay.
And the screen is that way to the right.
Okay.
And you can see all the seats going down.
Okay. All right.
Because they took an old single cinema theater and broke it into 4 individual ones. And it was just how they designed it.
Okay.
Right?
Makes sense.
Still for the life of me, I don't know why I did this. We walk into the theater. I walk in first. Franco is behind me.
Okay.
Mike is behind Frank. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Frank is holding a large soda and a bucket of popcorn. And he's kind of a big guy at this time. He is like, really kind of roly-poly. We walk in, and as soon as we get in, I look at the screen, and I scream. I just went, yeah! And I ducked behind the wall. My brother Mike pivots on the spot and heads out back the door. The entire theater turns around, and there's Frank standing there holding soda and popcorn. Looking like the biggest jerk in the world. I mean, how many years later is it? I have no clue why I did that. Frank called me a couple of names that I can't repeat here on camera. Welcome to Pork Chops, Rice, and Peaches. I'm Richard.
I'm Noah.
And today we're going to talk about the 1979 classic sci-fi horror flick Alien.
Oh, yeah.
Directed by Ridley Scott, written by Dan O'Brien and Ronald Shusett, starring an all-star cast.
Really is.
Tom Skerritt, Sigourney Weaver, Veronica Cartwright, Harry Dean Stanton, John Hurt, Ian Holm, and Yaphet Kotto. And I was supposed to double-check the pronunciation of his name because I've never known if it's Kotto or Kato. But the crew...
It wouldn't be the most egregious mispronunciation on this channel.
This is very true. This is very true. The crew of a space mining ship on a return trip to Earth receives a message of unknown origin that brings them in contact with an alien life form that starts to attack the members of the crew.
It's pretty classic. It sets the standard in many ways for a lot of people, for a lot of horror movies and sci-fi movies in general. This movie is an all-time classic. I'm reviewing it here for Halloween month. I love this movie. I adore this movie. I love it. I love it. I'll put it there. I love it. Before we get into it. So obviously, spoilers ahead for a movie that came out when he was 14. That
was a long time ago.
I'm sure if you clicked on this video, you've already seen it. Let's talk about it. What do you think? Am I remembering correctly? You haven't seen this since you saw it in theaters?
I've been trying to remember how many times I've seen this movie, and I think I only saw it when it was in theater in '79.
Damn.
And which is saying a lot because when I was on the submarine, all right, for 2 years, Hollywood provided our boat with a lot of movies. I mean, we had a huge video library because there's nothing to do underwater. So every night at 8 o'clock, a movie would get popped in, and I was always in the galley cooking, and I would listen to
whatever movie it was on.
Okay, like I've listened to Porky's 147 times. I can close my eyes and tell you every scene just from hearing it.
Oh, geez. Okay.
But I think until Monday morning, I haven't seen Alien since 1979.
That's impressive.
Well,
but-
okay, but there's and interestingly enough, there's two things about the movie that stick in my memory.
Okay.
One of them is, of course, the story of walking into the theater. I mean,
Yeah.
But I don't think you could guess in a dozen tries what scene in the movie sticks out in my mind the most.
Which
Yeah,
scene sticks out the most?
In the movie.
Okay, in the movie.
He doesn't actually get a dozen tries. 'Cause
No,
that'd
then
be
we'd
like a
be
boring
here
video.
for all day.
Yeah.
I'd have to fast forward
Right.
through a lot, and it'd be a
Yeah.
cheap effect.
Yeah.
Which part sticks out in your mind the most?
Yes.
Okay, so it's not chest burster because that's the obvious answer. It's not the end of the. It's not the. Is it when he's getting rained on?
No.
Okay, I was just
Actually,
taking a while stepping in the dark with that one.
When I think of Alien,
Okay.
I think of Ash, played by In Home,
Yes,
the head being reanimated.
that
The
was
robot-
literally my second guess
Was it?
after chest burster scene, but I thought that was too obvious.
No, that is the thing that I think of. That
It's
is the scene-
amazing.
It is
Okay, so
amazing.
I'm wiping that off my notes.
Okay, all right.
early.
You know, so you have this character that partway through the movie you realize is a robot.
Yes,
Right.
and an incredible twist that still holds up.
It is a
even
fantastic.
having seen it, it's still so good.
Yes, it is.
Just because you get the hints. If you know what to look for, you see where he's like, his performance is hinting at that.
Yes,
but
yes,
he's
it
also
is.
like hiding it, obviously, because
And then-
he's supposed to pretend to be a human.
And he has the battle with Ripley, played by Sigourney Weaver.
Yep.
Right. I looked at golly, I put this movie in and I looked at how young Sigourney
Yeah.
Weaver was in this movie.
Really?
And she hits him with something, knocks his head off, and realizes he's a robot.
I thought it was Parker who hits the.
No, I think it's Ripley.
Okay, we'll verify that.
Yeah, we'll
That'll be a
verify
splash.
that,
Someone hits his head off with
Right.
with like a. It looks like a fire extinguisher. is what
Yeah,
it looks
something like that. And so
It's a fantastic special effect.
it is. And
I'll get it out of the way. The special effects in this movie are top tier,
Okay.
and still
So-
they look better than most things nowadays.
Special effects for this movie were a 1980 Oscar winner.
exactly. They're
and now
so good.
okay, so I will tell you that, and I'm going to acknowledge this. First of all, if you haven't seen this movie, you really need to sit down and
How
watch
have you
it.
not seen
Right.
it at this point?
Well,
it's amazing.
there's so many movies out, but there are special effects in this movie that do not stand the test of time. But if you keep it in the era,
yeah.
this was cutting edge.
Oh, this was amazing.
Right.
I still genuinely 90% of the effects in this movie I would rather watch today than what's being produced today.
Yes. The practical special effects are just really.
I'll get this
well
comment out of the way.
Okay.
I want to see Aliens special effects. I want to see the oil painting backdrops. I want to see the model ships flying through space. I want to see the practical sets, the practical android body,
Okay.
all the practical effects. I want to see that done with today's technology, because today's technology would look so good with those special effects.
Yes.
We have advanced so far.
Yes.
It would be an amazing movie if we saw that. If we saw them put that much effort into it.
I can't help but wonder if it's truly cost effective to do the CGI.
At this point, I'm wondering.
At
this point, I'm wondering if it really is.
Right.
But
So yeah, this was the best Oscar winner for best visual effects.
and well deserved.
And yeah, now this is a beautiful story. One of the things that I liked about this movie is that it wasn't creature focused, it wasn't monster focused.
No.
And as I rewatched this movie, I realized we really aren't seeing a lot of the monster.
No, and that's we'll talk about like the horror. As a horror trope, that always works.
It works
It
very
so
well.
works. Less is more when it comes to horror flick. If you really want to be a true horror flick, Not a slasher film with
Right.
Freddy and Jason type things. The if you want to be a true horror flick, less is more.
Yes, it is. And so, you know, I think back to Jaws, because Spielberg originally intended the shark to be in the movie more, but because it kept failing in the water, he ends up cutting this masterpiece where you rarely see the shark.
Exactly.
Right? And it helped make it the masterpiece that it was.
Exactly.
Well, Alien does the same thing, because I'll be totally honest with you, it isn't until the very end of the movie when they are in the small escape shuttle.
Yeah.
And the creature is coming out of hiding.
Yeah.
That it looks like a man in a rubber suit.
Exactly.
And, and that's the final 10 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
And so by today's standard, is it laughably bad?
Yeah, I think that is kind of the worst effect in the yeah.
But does it really detract that much from the movie? No,
really,
because we're talking about 15 seconds of screen time at the most.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So yeah, it's just the special effects were great. I think maybe the only thing that they didn't do particularly well in '79, they had Lucasfilm that could have done it better. The explosion of the ship at the end of the movie.
Yeah,
that looked like Buck Rogers' TV fare.
Yeah,
you know?
that's fair.
But
yeah,
look, that's my biggest complaint, right? You know,
the movie. Oh my god.
Yeah. So you get this story of a crew that responds to a partial message.
Yep.
They get directed to a planet. They land on it. One of their crew members gets attacked, and they end up violating every safety protocol.
Yep.
That they should follow, and it brings an alien life form that's basically a land shark, and right,
yeah,
and it slowly starts to pick off the crew one by one.
Mm-hmm. It's a simple plot that works almost flawlessly, and I think this is as close to perfection of a horror movie as you can get.
You know, I ran down the list of the performers.
Yeah,
and I maybe that was too quick, because Tom Skerritt has had an amazing career.
Yeah,
Sigourney Weaver, very talented.
Everyone knows Sigourney at this point.
Right. Harry Dean Stanton, who is for most people the character actor that you know by sight but not by name.
Exactly.
Right. John Hurt.
John Hurt is legendary.
He is.
Just at this point, may he rest in peace. Because
Yaphet
died a couple years ago.
Kotto, he did.
Yeah.
Who I first discovered. I mean, I saw him in this movie, but his performance is Al Giordino in Homicide: Life on the Streets.
I knew you were going to say Homicide.
Right.
Why did I know it was going to be Homicide: Life on the Streets?
He's also Mr. Big in Roger Moore's first James Bond movie.
Is he really?
Yes, he is.
Okay,
He's the big
make
bad
that
guy.
connection.
Yeah, he is.
That's awesome.
And so
Ian Holm,
right? So Veronica Cartwright is really the only member of the cast. I really don't know what her career is. And as Lambert, that's okay. As Lambert, she gave a great performance.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So here's the problem with having such a big name cast for me. All right, this is because. You know, I'm watching this movie. I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I am appreciating the fact that you see this crew struggling with all of the challenges.
Yes.
And they're being undercut by a character.
Yep.
Right? Their lives are in danger. They're slowly getting picked off one by one in the ship. It is an on the edge of your seat thriller.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
You barely see the monster, so that it just creates the horror of the mind.
Yes.
And I really did. After all this time, knowing the movie. I was on the edge of my seat the whole time.
Okay, so I said in the last episode that horror doesn't really get to me. I'm usually bored watching horror movies for the most part, because I usually will pick it up. But I'm sitting and I'm listening to this, listening specifically to this movie, because the sound design. We talked about special effects. The sound design in this movie is incredible.
Yes, it is.
I was also just sitting and going, ooh, 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 chills, goosebumps the entire time. Because the performances are so good.
Yes.
And the scenarios that they keep getting put into and having to try to solve their way out of the balance between the scenarios that they keep getting thrown into, as well as their reactions to the entire evolving situation. Because if you notice, all of them have a different reaction to what's going on. They have a different solution in mind to what's going on. And that's what makes it really interesting, because then you have this conflict of, are they going to do things the way that is most beneficial, because they all have a conflicting idea of what needs to be done.
Yes.
It just makes it hectic. It just makes the whole thing hectic, intense, and it's so well crafted.
You have this B or C plot line where Brett and Parker, the junior members, are petitioning for a bonus, for an increase in pay. They're clearly the enlisted members of the crew, and they want more money because they think they deserve more money. And so you get this whole ongoing push for equality and more money. And so there's unrest in the crew, and people aren't happy with their positions. And
you're not sure, because the movie sets with that plot point. They set the idea that these two are going to be the troublemakers throughout the movie. They're the ones that are going to cause problems for the rest of the crew. But then it kind of not. It subverts your expectations. Yeah. They actually are very helpful in trying to get out.
Well, not only that, but the whole movie subverts your expectations.
Exactly.
You sit there, and of course, it's a horror movie. You know they're going to be picked off, right?
Yeah.
And so part of the game is who goes first.
Mm-hmm.
I was wrong on every point. And the one thing that I didn't remember from the movie the first time, I know that Sigourney Weaver is the only Ripley's the only character that survives. I did not remember the order that they disappeared.
I only remember that Hurt went first. That's the only thing. I only know that it was John Hurt playing Kane in the chestburster scene.
Well, only because it was the chestburster scene. But
exactly.
Right,
only because it's the chestburster scene, and it's so iconic.
And I'll be totally honest with you, man. Seeing it in the theater for the first time.
I bet.
Never forget.
I don't think anyone forgets that when they first see it. It's so well done.
It's like the head popping out of the boat in Jaws. I mean, if you've seen that in the theater, you're horrified, and it sticks with you forever. The chest burster. Yeah.
It's so good. It's so good.
The exploding head in Scanners was one. That, you could go down a whole list of stuff like that. So, now I played a game, an unintentional game during this movie, because we've seen so many of these actors and so many different things. I kept hearing lines from other movies while I'm watching them on screen, right? So we had just covered Tom Skerritt in MASH.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And him getting caught with Hot Lips hand, right? It's just burned in the memory bank. Right? So you're looking at Tom Skerritt as Dallas, and you're like, I know what you did last week. Harry Dean Stanton's, of all the things I've seen him do over the years, his classic role is Toot Toot in The Green Mile. So here's this very young Harry Dean Stanton on screen, and all I'm hearing is "Getting Right with Jesus."
Right?
I'm trying to get this out of my head while I'm watching the movie, and I can't. And every time a very young John Hurt walks on screen, I hear, "The wand chooses the wizard, Mr. Potter. Of that we know for sure." And I keep hearing all of this stuff, but it's a testament to the actors and the legacy that they've left.
Oh my gosh, they have such resumes and such massive pieces on said resumes that you're just looking at them and
are you the gatekeeper? That's another one. That's another one. So what an absolutely talented crew. So I think the one thing, did you pick apart? Did you notice all the glaring WTF moments?
There's a few. I have my own notes. Occasionally, I'll have notes on a similar level to what Dad writes down. There's some hilarious ones. I'll start with this one just because it's really funny. Where is it? I wrote, haha, styrofoam floor on the acid scene, where he cuts open the knuckle of the face hugger, and it falls down. Yeah. And the floor is so very obviously styrofoam.
I didn't notice that.
It's so very obviously styrofoam. It was so funny.
Okay.
You could see the pox.
Oh,
gotcha. Like very obviously roller painted styrofoam.
I'm gonna have to go back and watch.
It's really funny. Where was it? Oh, come on. I mean, the entire tunnel scene, where he's crawling through the air vent with a flamethrower. First off, really cool. Overall, that is an actual like flaming prop in a enclosed.
Yes,
like the scene itself, claustrophobic as hell.
Oh yeah.
Like, just adds to the creep factor.
Yes.
Really well shot, really well lit, really well organized. It really gets you uncomfortable because of how claustrophobic it is and how little he's moving.
Mm-hmm.
But also, why was this your option?
Well, yeah.
Why did you do it by yourself? Why is this your...
Okay,
there's some glaring... Like, okay, you could have thought this through a tad bit more, but for overall the movie covers its tracks very well.
It does. They don't learn from their mistakes. They keep getting set up where it's one person alone.
Yeah.
Like, so Dallas goes into the air vents to find the creature. Dallas disappears. Later on, Parker says, all I found was this. He hands the flamethrower.
Yep.
And he says, there was no blood. If I were Parker, I wouldn't be going into that air vent alone. I'd be taking someone with me.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
And so you get, so Harry Dean Stanton's character, gets separated from two others to look for a cat. Really? Want to go look for a cat? There's a man-eating monster on the ship, and you're worried about the cat.
No, so I initially, but then I went back and rewatched it, and they were like, he's going to keep. They specifically say we need to get him, we need to catch that, otherwise he's going to interfere with our readings. Because they were still looking for the little guy that burst out of the chest.
Yeah, you're
they
right.
legitimately
you're
did.
right.
Okay, they covered.
Right.
They covered that. They covered that. They still thought they were looking for the little guy.
Right. Not the big guy.
I'll give it that.
Grew very quickly.
He does grow very quickly.
Right.
It's really, aliens are weird.
Well, here's the other thing, and this one kind of bothered me. All the thought that's put into this.
Yeah.
And you've got this creature, and you've got this huge head.
Yes.
And you've got this very narrow body, which is kind of odd. But then you have this very narrow mouth that comes out from within a mouth.
Yeah.
With the metal teeth.
Mm-hmm.
How come there was no blood at all?
I have no idea.
Like if it were Venom
I think it's supposed
swallowing the character whole, I could buy it.
I think it's just. I don't know. It's supposed to be the perfect killing machine.
Like Space Shark.
Yeah, it's supposed to be the perfect thing that,
Yeah.
It's supposed to add the line. There was no blood is supposed to add more creep to it,
and it failed. That one misfired.
That one does misfire.
That one misfires. Why was it raining inside the spaceship? Did we ever find out why it's raining?
No.
Why was Brett standing there? Like
I could come up with a million. I could come up with
to start singing.
It's supposed to. Well, so the raining was dumb. You could come up with a million reasons why there was water. It could be a radiator, coolant, just condensation dripping off of engines, whatever. F that. Okay, here's what's great about that scene. You know what's fantastic about that entire sequence after he starts looking for the cat?
What?
First off, the movie uses excellent sections of absolutely no background music.
Yes.
Most horror movies
it does.
will use some sort of music, and it indicates when things are going to happen. And it's kind of like a safe way of indicating to the audience when they can be like expecting to be scared, right?
Okay.
Like the music amps up as it goes, and it crescendos, and hypes you up for the big scary thing. This movie doesn't.
No, it
uses silence really well. So during that scene, the engine sounds like a heartbeat. The background noise of the ship sounds like a heartbeat.
Okay.
And it sounds like a fast-paced heartbeat. And that just adds to the tension of the scene of him going through.
Didn't pick that up.
It's really good.
I didn't pick that, which means that I was going for the ride.
Yeah, exactly. When I watch anything set in space specifically, I think back to a fun fact about Star Trek Deep Space Nine that I heard. And I verified this before I wrote this note, but Deep Space Nine had a background hum.
Yes, it did.
In all their
Yeah.
And now whenever I watch Sci-Fi, I listen to see if there's background hum of the spaceship or background noise of the spaceship during a scene. Alien has it throughout. And it changes throughout, but Alien has it throughout. And it matches the tension of the scene, which is what's so freaking good.
Yes, it
about
is.
the sound design in this movie.
The sound design is fantastic. There's one area where the sound design failed. I will always complain about this.
Yep.
I will always complain because the only movie that I'm aware of that really gets it right is 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Okay.
Which is probably a movie we should cover.
Probably at some point.
And that is when the scenes are in space, it is silent.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this a little bit before. Alien is not as bad as other movies.
No, it's not.
But you still get just a little bit of it.
Yeah.
I understand why they want to do that, but I think it adds to the experience if it's silent.
It adds to the astrophobia that's something that the fear of space.
No, I get it. I know it.
Yeah. I love the terrifying nature of space, just the void and the endless darkness that's out there and like what's out there. And this taps into it so well. Like I don't have astrophobia, but it's similar to when you're floating in the ocean and you look down and you see nothing but blackness. I can't remember what it's called. It's going to be splashed here when future me finds the word online.
Right.
It's like that pitch black void. The movie captures it so well. Especially early on, because it's just pitch black space, this haunting silhouette of this Saturn-like planet with its moons, which should be inviting because we see Saturn. We have photos of Saturn. We had photos of Saturn back then.
Right.
You know, we should know what that looks like, but no, they cover it in shadow. They've got these haunted moons surrounding it. The planet is eerie and all this stuff going on. It was... the ambiance and the environment was set up so well.
It was, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. This is a movie. Go see it. I said it before.
Yeah.
You really do. You need to go see it because I can't pick it apart. I mean, there's some things that are
there's
plot
nitpicks
holy,
here and there, but I've got more things that I love than I dislike.
I just love the whole experience of rewatching it and how well put together this movie was. I have seen one other entry in what has now become a franchise. And I don't care to really ever watch another Alien one again because
I've heard everything after 2 doesn't hold up.
But I believe it.
And I want to watch
really
2. And I want to watch 2 because 2 is I remember it being really good because it just didn't even try to be like it didn't even try to one up the first one. It took it in a completely different direction.
Gotcha.
It went from horror to thriller. So it went from like ooh creepy to like creepy, but we stand a chance.
Gotcha. Right.
Which in Aliens, we should do it next year.
Okay.
We'll do it next year for Halloween. I'm gonna blast through some quick notes.
Yeah, blast through because my notes. So, I mean, I'm done. I didn't take that many notes because
you were so.
I was just riding it. I was just you're right.
Let's see. Okay, so I love cassette futurism, the whole aesthetic.
Okay.
So the ship design. You know, the plastic click-clacky buttons that have no labels.
Right.
The only thing I don't like, basically the entire ship design. Everywhere the ship is like clean and white. I love that. Cassette futurism. I love it. It's retro. You know, I was born in the mid-90s, and having been born in the mid-90s and being an asshole, I have a lot of secondhand nostalgia for the early 90s, the late 80s,
Gotcha.
you know, and the early 80s and all the stuff that comes with it. So I love cassette futurism as an aesthetic. And
I've never even heard that phrase before.
It's what that look is generally technically called. I love it. I mentioned it earlier, oil paintings as backdrops.
Oh, the matte painting? Yeah. Yep.
Gorgeous.
Yep.
Love it. We need it back in movies. Hire oil painters. They're amazing. I love the we said subversion earlier. When John Hurt is inspecting the eggs on the planet, there's almost whimsical music in the background. Like the music is simultaneously, it's ominous, but also it's a little more upbeat. It's not what you would expect out of like, oh, we've discovered the big bad of the movie. Like, it's not like the music you would play when you're discovering Dracula's crypt, right?
Right.
Like, it's almost upbeat. That's why I say it's almost upbeat. So it subverts it.
I almost feel like I need to
he's
rewatch this just to listen to it.
Yeah, I think you should, because the sound design is incredible.
Okay.
They put so much effort into the sound design of this movie. Anytime you take a horror movie villain, an unknowable entity, and where am I going with this? How do I phrase this? Is what I mean. So you take an unknowable entity, right?
Right.
It's already terrifying because it's unknowable. You know nothing about it. But the more human you make it, the more human attributes you give it, the more creepy it gets. And my example is the face hugger. The little fingers that stretch across the face, they look like fingers.
Yes,
they
do.
Like human knuckles. It just adds to the creep factor.
Yes, it does.
It's so good. It's so good. The design in this movie was amazing. Background hums, white noise, I mentioned that. I think overall, a lot of the decisions they make in the first half of the movie are understandable at the least.
Okay.
Stupid. But you can understand why they make them until they let John Hurt out of the infirmary without checking anything. Of course, the movie explains why they do that, but they let him out without checking him. Like, come on!
Well, they let him in without checking him.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a whole subplot that's critical of the story that we're not talking about, and I think we probably shouldn't address it, because if you haven't seen Alien, or if it's been a long time, you need to watch it and really see how this whole thing works.
Oh yeah. Weyland-Yutani doesn't believe in proper lighting on their ships.
Who?
The corporation. They
gotcha.
don't name them, but it's Weyland-Yutani. It's the name of the corporation, the company.
Well,
like the entire lower level. This is like OSHA's worst nightmare. There's no lights. They're all carrying handheld torches, and I'm like,
there's one of the things about the movie that just kind of bugged me through the whole thing. You have sections of the ship that are what did you refer to it as? The cassette what?
Cassette futurism, the top level.
Right, the cassette futurism, and then you have the lower level.
Yeah.
All of the creature attacks are in the lower level. So why don't you just freaking stay in the upper white clean level? Just stay there. Just stay there. Right?
Yeah.
You know? That's one of the things that bothered me through the entire movie. And then of course, how do I ask this question without totally blowing the end of the movie, the climax? How did the cat survive since it was out of its crate?
It was in the pod. Should put it in the cryogenics pod.
Before the climactic ending?
She literally lets it back down into it, and then you see the lid close.
I must have been taking a note at that moment.
You must have been, because
I missed the
she
lid
actively
close.
does.
Okay, gotcha. I missed that. All right. So then, they tick that one off the list. That was fine.
Yeah. The animatronics overall for the alien until the very end of the movie are really well done.
They're extraordinarily well done.
Amazing.
Yeah. Yes.
We mentioned it earlier. I'm going to bring it up again. The transition from the fake head to the real head.
Oh,
perfect.
That was incredible.
So well done. It was so quick. I almost missed it. Almost missed it. I was like, whoa!
Well, in the filming
that was
technique
so well.
Is so simple.
Yeah, it is.
It's
the
such
simplest,
a simple practical effect, but the transition is incredible.
Oh my gosh!
Yes.
And my last note that I put in there is that the strobe effects at the end almost gave me a seizure. So
well, it's interesting.
They add to the scene. I understand why they're there, but that dude who was off on the side with the flashlight was having a field day with
Yes,
that.
he was.
Like, come on, dude, calm down.
Your sister walked down like with the final 20 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
She sat down. She's like, "What's this?" And I thought, and I said, "Yeah, you know, the heroine of the movie. You might actually enjoy this." You know.
Oh, and we didn't even talk about Ripley as a character.
So next thing I know, she's sitting and she's looking down. And I said, "Is this scaring you?" She said, "I can't take the strobes." And I'm like, you know,
makes sense.
So you know. Okay, so let's talk about Ripley,
because like we talk about like it's become a very common talking point is that like when especially in the modern day when you're talking about especially female action heroines, Ripley is always brought up as one of the greats.
Ripley is one of the greats.
She is one of the greats, hands down.
And she's also one of the earliest.
Exactly.
Which is why Jennifer Lawrence really stepped in it when she talked about how she was the first, you know, female action lead action star.
I was like, what?
Yeah.
No.
She got understandably and appropriately raked over the coals.
Yes, she did.
Because what was the first person they brought up? Ripley. Right?
Yeah.
You know?
Sigourney Weaver put on a masterclass in this movie.
She did. And did you ever find out how old was she when she filmed this movie?
Nope. Let's look it up.
I mean, because if I had to guess, I'd say about 23 or 24, just by looking at her.
How old was Sigourney in Alien? 28.
28.
She was my age.
She was very, very young.
Yeah,
looking,
still very,
And I was trying to think of who do I remember as a star of an action horror and any kind of movie prior to her, and I can't think of anybody. And that is not to say that it didn't happen.
No, but
I can't think of any. And we would have to probably go into the 60s, 50s, 40s to find an A-list actress. Who was headlining a movie.
I mean, because
beautiful
Terminator comes out several years afterwards,
right?
So you know,
but Linda Hamilton had second billing to Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah,
right. Even though she turns in an incredible performance in any time she stepped on screen.
Exactly. Yeah. But we're talking about lead actresses in these sorts of movies.
Yeah.
Like thinking of what came before Sigourney Weaver and Alien.
Well, here's the beautiful part about this whole thing.
Yeah.
You take a look at this really talented cast.
Very talented
when the movie opens, you would never guess that Ripley is the lone survivor.
You wouldn't.
That she is the hero of the movie.
No, you wouldn't.
You would guess it at all.
No. If this was your first watching with no background context of like what happens in this movie, I don't think you would.
No.
I don't think you would. Because I'm watching the movie going, no, they completely hid the fact that she's the lone survivor in the beginning of this movie.
Yes.
Because they gave everyone equal screen time. So you're kind of guessing, okay, who's going to be the main character?
The only shortchanged deaths in the movie were Parker and Lambert.
Yep.
Because they got killed at the same time.
Yep.
And you really didn't see how. You just kind of have to accept that they did.
Yeah.
And I think those are the only two. And I wonder, it didn't even occur to me to check I wonder if there's a director's cut of this movie.
There is. I saw it when I was looking this one up.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I need to go watch that.
Yeah.
I need to watch
I kind of want to go watch the director's cut now.
Most definitely. Just to see.
I wonder if there's,
Yeah.
because this movie is already so well made. But yeah, no, Ripley is this awesome character, and no, normally if you have a character that starts off the movie as the this is the procedure, we need to follow the procedure,
Right.
we need to do this, you're going to expect one of two things. Either you're going to hate this character, or this is the first to die.
First to die is usually what ends up
the
happening.
first thing that you
first to
think
die.
of, and if they don't, you usually think, oh, this is going to be the asshole character. But the
Right.
thing that's great about Ripley is that, yeah, they ignore her, yeah, they don't take her advice, yeah, they don't follow, and she was right.
She was right.
But she's also terrified the whole time. If she had been stoic and steadfast the whole time, this would have been a much more boring movie.
Yes.
She would have been so much less compelling. It's the fact that she is terrified, still trying to think clearly,
Yes.
still trying to plan correctly,
Yes.
and overcoming the fear that she is very obviously showing, and the frustration and the
Right.
anger at the ship, at the corporation, at everything.
Well,
That's the obstacle she's overcoming in this movie, and it's great. And that's what makes her a compelling character in this movie, and that's what makes it work so well.
there's another aspect to it that having her as the heroine or the hero in the movie. One of the things that this movie did very well in 1979. Equal Rights Amendment was still big in this country.
Yep.
I mean, it was still very much
Yep.
alive in the 70s. Were a time where feminism and women's rights, they were huge.
Yeah.
And you had 5 men and 2 women on a deep space mission, and you had no love interest storylines in this movie.
Nope.
Right?
Nope.
You had 2 women on a ship with 5 men functioning as members of a crew.
Yep.
They all had their responsibilities. They all met their responsibilities.
Yep.
And you had none of the distractions of the love interests.
Nope.
Okay. Now, at the end of the movie, when Ripley thinks that she's the lone survivor and that she has conquered the beast,
Yep.
she lets her guard down.
Yes, she does.
Right?
Yep.
And she undresses.
Yes.
But, one, there's a reason for it.
There's a reason for it. She's letting her guard down.
Right. She's letting her guard down. She's about to go back into cryo sleep.
Yep.
Right. So she doesn't need to be in the full gear to do that.
Yep.
Is it titillating? Kind of. She's a beautiful woman.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, she's
Right?
she's an attractive woman, but it's the scene is not intended to be.
No, it's not.
Exactly.
It's right. It's not intended to be.
So
but
is it unnecessary? A little.
No. It's completely necessary. Here's
Well,
why.
Well, I know where you're going with this.
Oh, yeah?
Because when are you at your most vulnerable? 90% of the time. That is
exactly.
I knew where you were going with it.
All right.
And
it is so complimentary because when you brought up the fact that her fear is ever present and she's overwhelmed in a situation, but thinking her way through it.
Yes.
At her most vulnerable
is when she has to completely calm herself and focus on
her way through it, and she solves the problem. And it's not pull out a big gun and shoot.
Exactly.
Right? It's not pull out the bigger stick. She thinks her way through this.
Exactly.
And it's what makes her character so successful.
Yes.
And such a wonderful hero of the movie.
Yes.
Overcoming the ultimate vulnerability.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So to summarize that scene,
we saw it the same way.
Generally unnecessary? I mean, you could make the argument that was unnecessary, but did it add more to the movie than it subtracted? Yes, absolutely it did.
The only way you could have made her more vulnerable was to make her nude, and that would have been 100% unnecessary.
Yes, that would have been 100% unnecessary.
And so you just have this very mature approach to this whole situation.
Yes.
And it just shows her how strong she is as a character.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. It was great.
Yeah.
It was great.
Movie,
I loved it.
Overall, fantastic movie. I can't
yeah.
wait for next year when we review the
Aliens.
sequel.
The sequel?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm curious. I'm truly curious.
Yeah.
How many people who aren't of my generation have seen this movie.
That's an all-time great. I think a lot. I bet a lot of people will have seen this movie.
Well, and so I'd like to know how many of you have seen the movie, and I truly would like to know, what do you think of it?
Yeah.
So leave your comments below. Don't worry about spoiler free, because obviously
yeah.
we've seen it. And if you like what you see here on Pork Chops, Rice, and Peaches, please hit the subscribe button. We are very grateful for your support. We are grateful for everybody who has joined our channel last month, because I got an email today. It said 68.
Yeah, it was a lot of people.
I pinch myself every time. I really do. I can't believe it. Your support is wonderful, and thank you.
We appreciate you guys so much. Let us know your thoughts on Alien down in the comments below.
And we have, I think, 2 more movies planned for October for the Horror Fest.
Yes, we do.
And we're looking forward to it.
All right.
We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.